very shortly. So I
Just
hope.
hold like a fake smile.
One moment. It says setting up your meeting for YouTube Live. Okay. Okay, there it is. All right.
Oh
Let's see.
yeah, it's live, huh?
Yep. Okay. So, and then I can edit this.
Start the record.
What I'm thinking is, one, we should have tested this beforehand.
Yeah, that's right. I said it wasn't going to be as we were working it out.
Yeah.
I was like, this might not be.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Nope, figured it out.
Yo,
Armand, we're live on YouTube, so
all right, no cursing.
I mean, I don't care about that.
Oh, then you'll see what Paul just tweeted.
Yes,
Everyone's like, "Oh, Miami's gonna get messy." Not happening. Or messy, Jesus.
they did that. No,
Anyway,
that
they
did
did get
happen,
messy
bro. That
actually.
happened a few years ago.
Yeah,
Pessy.
Wait, why don't you think it'll happen?
they have three full DPs. They'd have to buy out Alba or Busquets, and I don't think that's gonna happen. And Tom said that he wants Insigne money, which is 15 million. Now he wants two.
Wait, what do you mean?
They have no DP spots. They can't get him.
But if they
They
buy
they,
down, if they
they
what if they
can't.
get Albert back down?
Well, his contract escalated. They can't unless they'd have to completely renegotiate, which I don't see Alba being like, "Yo, I'm gonna do it again." Haha.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think he actually. I mean, it'd be a lot of fun, but I'm not sure it actually fits. It doesn't make super sense, but
Alba already took his pay cut. I don't think he's gonna take another one. We'll
all
save it
right,
for the
make
show.
Busquets, then make Busquets do it.
Busquets
All
won't do
right,
it either.
guys. I think we're ready to do this. We got it all set up on
Hey, how many live viewers we got? Zero.
uh one maybe.
It's you.
Yeah.
Hey,
All right, let's get this here. All right. Don't worry, guys. This is just a first time.
I'm scared.
And then
Okay, hold on. Let me just.
I see. Now, we'll figure out something for next time, but this is a test because I want to get it where we can actually have like if people leave comments. Right now, I don't. I guess I could open it up on YouTube and do that. This is a very like
Sorry, what
boomer.
is it on?
This is a very boomer thing right now.
You are a boomer.
I am a boomer. Okay, let's see. Uh, uh, yeah, we'll figure this out for the future. For now, we'll just do this without. Or no, there's the chat. Okay. All right, cool. You guys ready to get going? Let's start this off, guys. Hello and welcome to the Hex. We are trying this live. This is episode 23. Of course, we will cut the rest of this for the podcast version. But I'm Daniel Robertson with John Arnold and Armand Kafai, the six hottest topics in North American soccer. Boys, it was a busy weekend. Let's get right into it. So, topic number one this week, we are going to look at the MLS winners of the weekend as we normally do. And John, we mentioned Minnesota United last week. Armand was doing some work on them that I know he's going to be writing quite a bit on it. I don't know that people are necessarily sleeping on them because I think plenty of people are talking about Minnesota, but they're your winner of the weekend.
Yeah, I think that Minnesota is the winner of the weekend because it's not easy to win on the road in MLS. We thought that maybe the Minnesota going to NYCFC to the quirky confines of a baseball stadium in the Bronx would end up kind of suiting them, and it did. But not only that, I think they managed the game extremely intelligently. NYCFC manager Pascal Janssen with I think I wrote in ESPN's Power Rankings the universal sign for I screwed up with two substitutions in the 40th minute. He's like, man, we can't even wait till the 40th. Like, we got to get these guys in here. And he was right. They were getting absolutely outplayed. And I think Minnesota's going to do this to other teams this year. Yeah, in some ways, maybe that kind of change up that we talk about with their directness, teams will figure out. Maybe a few times it'll get smashed up the middle for a home run, to stick with some baseball analogies. But I think overall, the fact that the things are going right for Minnesota, that they're playing to their style, that the parts that they have, the players that they have seem to enjoy what they're doing. I think it's a big positive, and for me, that's why they're the winners. It seems to me this is something that can sustain past this weekend. Maybe beating NYCFC isn't the most impressive result, but I think anytime you win on the road in Major League Soccer, it's a good thing, and this is something that it looks like they can sustain.
Well, and you said it would be tough to sustain it, but Armand, with the way they're playing, to me, this is totally sustainable.
It is, but I mean, even at the tail end of that game, they were allowing a plethora of chances. They were really sitting back at the end of that match. I mean, again, they play the most direct style in MLS by far, by a significant margin. I was playing around with some graphics, and it broke my scale quite literally because of how far and how much more direct they are than other teams.
Steam
And
was
look,
coming out of the computer like
yeah, like it was fanning, and I was like, "Oh shit, is this gonna explode or what?" Like I don't know. But no, they play super direct, and also they have all the players that bought in, right? It seems like that Eric Ramsey. I mean, gosh, I mean, he's done such an excellent job at such a young age at building everyone to buy in. And Daniel, you pointed out a great point to me yesterday. The way they play, they just get the ball and just go up, like just straight
they don't
up.
go across. They have the fewest cross balls in the entire league. I was looking at the on Football Reference. They have the fewest switches. That's the word I was looking for. They have the fewest switches in the league. They don't play across the field. I watched that entire game. They get it, and then they play it down the right channel to Yoboa or the left channel to Tani, and they just go.
It's all out offense, and it's fun to watch. I guess for some people, this might not be the most beautiful game. They might say, "Oh, it's not possession, it's not that." But come on, it's fun. You get goals, you get action on both ends of
Yeah,
the field.
they have the highest XG created in the league. So if you're saying it's not fun, like there's absolutely no leg to stand on there. Armand, I was a little bit surprised by your winner though. It's a team that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, to be honest.
Right, it's Cincinnati for me. And guys, like you might say, Cincinnati, they beat the Revolution. Who cares, right? Like the Revolution are terrible. I don't know how Caleb Porter has a job still.
Okay.
I think he's just they're just absolutely struggling. But with Cincinnati, they're missing key players this week. Sure, they had Denke, should have had Orejano, but they're missing Evander. They're missing two center backs. They were missing Wobodo in the middle, and they were able to pull out a pretty gutty victory in the pouring rain, even at home against a Revolution team that going into that match, guys, they were amongst the lowest teams in expected goals allowed. This Cincinnati smashed them in that regard. And again, they didn't do it with a fully healthy team. They did it with a rotated side. I know we talked about how Cincinnati has a lot of pieces and they've kind of assembled their roster pretty well. They have the most TAM players in the league or TAM eligible players in the league. But to get results like this in MLS are never easy, right? We've seen some weird results happen, especially last week. We saw Houston get their first win. We saw SKC get a big
San
win against St.
Jose won
Louis.
6-1.
They
San
were, yes,
Jose winning.
by
Like,
by definition, San Jose was the biggest winner in
yeah,
the
I
league.
mean, they absolutely smashed. But for me, Cincinnati being able to rotate these players in and get results is it's important to get those, especially in games that could be trap matches like that Revolution match. So for me, it was Cincinnati. I really was impressed by their performance against the Revolution, even though Revolution are terrible.
I think the question there though is becomes like, and we'll talk about this a lot in our second segment, but the maybe the power of expectation, right? And it's like when you look at Cincinnati, I find it hard to say they're the big winners right now because almost no matter what they do in the regular season, does it even really matter?
Well, I think the key is the missing players, right? If you can overcome and give fans a reason to think that, hey, this isn't just Evander in, team good, Evander out, team bad, or oh, would you have to have Miles Robinson on the field to have a chance of winning a game? If there is this hint of depth, I think that's so key because I think every team was going to be hit by absences, whether it's through injury, through Club World Cup stuff is going to be weird for obviously the participants, international break for other teams. If you can have any depth in MLS, especially the way that the rosters are still forced to be designed, I think that gives you a huge advantage. And so when players secure a victory, even if it's against a team that you sort of expect them to beat, I do think that merits at least a bit of a pat on the back.
So my biggest winner of the weekend is actually going to be FC Dallas, the team that didn't win. And I think that,
Yeah, pretty rich for you criticizing the FC Cincinnati pick, and then you pick a big draw,
well,
boys.
but again, that's where the burden of expectation comes in because I was as much of a skeptic as anyone on FC Dallas heading into this weekend. On my betting channel, I bet against them. I lost money on their result this weekend, getting a result in Atlanta. And if you look at every single one of their results this year, what I said on the channel was they had played 3 good teams and 3 bad teams. They beat the 3 good teams. They lost or drew against the 3 bad teams. And of course, they didn't win this weekend. But going to Atlanta, a full powered Atlanta team with everyone available. They were at home last week. They were at home again this week. They're at home again next week. This was one of those results that in most years, Dallas would have gotten smashed and lost 2 or 3-0. And I think it would have been okay because I don't think Dallas is going to be judged this year by what do they do at Atlanta. It's can you make the playoffs and be competitive in the Western Conference? However, Armand, we watched this game together and Atlanta came out and gave Dallas their best shot in the first 20, 30 minutes. Dallas gave up a penalty and it was kind of a soft penalty, but they gave up a goal and they did give up that goal, but then they settled down and they didn't get overrun. And we both thought this is gonna be 2-0, this is gonna be 3-0, this is gonna be 4-0. They bent, but they didn't break, and then they worked their way back into the match. They got the equalizer, and there was only one team that was gonna win that game if there was a winner, and it was gonna be Dallas.
It's super interesting, Daniel, because they made one of the biggest center back signings in MLS history, and Osade Urgahide. I totally butchered his name probably, but I did my best. He was excellent. Yes, I know he got the penalty called against him with him kind of basically kind of tackling Latte Loth. But outside of that, he was strong. He is great on the ball. His awareness is excellent. He's a great addition to that defense. And for me, it's one of those low-key signings that were missing last season. So last season, right?
They needed a center back.
A center back. Alan Velasco and Jesus Ferrer were basically in and out, and Alan Velasco wasn't relevant until the end of the season, until Nico Esteves was long let go. These are the pieces that were missing. And Dallas, in my opinion, John, is they're not playing great, but they have great players that are able to raise their floor and help them get those results. I mean, you have Lucio Acosta. Boom, you make a mistake, Acosta will find Musa. They'll burn you immediately. You have a strong center back in Osade who will prevent big chances from being created. These additions that they added have been absolutely great to start the year.
Yeah, I think that when they signed Lucho Acosta, we all said that our expectations, like you're saying, Daniel, that they certainly changed. And it's because of the moment that created the goal, right? Acosta gets on the ball, tries again, finds Musa. Musa has a nice finish, right? This is exactly what Dallas kind of brought these guys in. And as long as that connection is there and they're not totally helpless at the back, and look, Martin Paz, also a very good goalkeeper, although he wasn't busy at all on Saturday. When you have those individuals, yeah, your life gets a lot easier and you sort of are able to, I think, cover over a lot of the stuff that we were worried about in the preseason, saying, well, is this attack really going to work with these pieces, et cetera, et cetera? All of a sudden, you've got Acosta, a guy who desperately wants to be on the ball to make things happen, who is going to give everything he can to try and create chances. And you got a forward who can finish them off. And you got a big old center back who's stopping things in the back. So, yeah, it addressed the needs that the team had. The timing still is odd to me. When we talked about the Acosta move, I said the timeline doesn't make any sense. This guy's a win now edition. You've got a bunch of win later guys, and then you've got some guys who are kind of over the hill. How does it all come together? I don't really know. But I understand, Daniel, why you picked a team that drew as your winner.
And their next 4 games, though, in Dallas, at Seattle at home, then they go at Minnesota, at Miami, at San Diego. It's a good thing
they make our
points.
winner section sometime next month, you know that things are going really well in Frisco.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, one team we avoided talking about in segment number 2, in our winners in segment number 1, was because we knew we were going to talk about them here. And John,
production, baby.
Production value. We're live streaming. We're thinking about our topics beforehand. John, what kind of headlines does it make in Mexico with Chucky Lozano and San Diego? Because you can make the case right now, and we have seen this before in MLS, but you can make the case that they are the best team in the league at this point. And boy, we were going to say, is there a VAR check right now for San Diego? It seems like the check is complete.
Oh, I'm not going to the monitor right now, man. This team looks incredibly good, and they looked good without Chucky Lozano. And then he had what I think is kind of his MLS breakout game with
Hmm.
the goal and the assist. The assist nicer than the goal for me.
Hmm.
And, just start to finish, really start to finish of the first half, San Diego in total control. And then they were able to just kind of cruise in the second half, I felt. But yeah, there's when you saw San Diego producing and getting results and looking as good as they did and having this, style on them already as an expansion team, and then you said, but Lozano hasn't even been playing well. You just thought, man, if Chucky can get healthy and start playing well, it's going to be a different beast, and that's exactly what's happening. So the timing looks right for San Diego. Mikey Varas has been doing a great job. I've seen some people say, like, I didn't think this team would compete at all. And now I think they might win the Western Conference. I think our friend Joe Lowry wrote that this morning. Tough to disagree right now. Partly that's teams that we thought, like the Seattle Sounders, who they beat on Saturday, falling short of what we thought they were going to look like. But partly it's what San Diego's doing. And you add Chucky to the mix, and it's like you didn't think this guy was going to be the cherry on top. It seemed like he was going to be the sun that everything revolved around. And he still may be, but so far early, there's been so much production from other players that it's really been a dream start, I think, for San Diego.
John, for
Yeah.
me, Anders Dreyer,
Yeah, of
like
course.
absolutely incredible. I mean, he's
He puts
arguably
guys in the
been
spin cycle.
and his work rate, just the pressing that they do through him, through Anibal Godoy. My good friend Mark Machado mentioned how Anibal Godoy and the team just covers so much space in the press. It's it's super impressive because it's not the same feeling you had when St. Louis came into the league and was kind of getting these wonky goals, and you're like, okay, no team is gonna back pass you the ball as they got like 3 times in a row, or in the first game against Austin where someone yelled at Kip Keller to pass him the ball and they passed him the ball and he scored. No, these are legitimate results. They sit what third in the Western Conference in expected goal difference, and they've been doing it in a style that we haven't seen in MLS. A lot of teams in our expansion, they come in and they kind of play direct. They don't have the pieces. They're afraid to play out of the back, etc. San Diego's playing from the back. They're one of the least direct teams in MLS, and they're doing it in a way that is looks like it's sustainable, at least from what we're seeing. And again, this is with them 100% full on healthy, no injuries. So we'll see what happens with the depth of an expansion
And that's
roster.
not,
But
wait, whoa, 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 step back. You just said this is with them being 100% with no injuries. Their
okay,
best
okay,
player has missed more than half the
that's
season
true. That's
so far.
true.
If
But
I had told you before the season,
that's
heading
true.
into week 7, Chucky Lozano would have played at he would have played
200
an
minutes,
hour in 2 out of their first 7 matches. What would you be saying right now? You would be saying this team has won like once,
maybe twice.
maybe twice. So you need to step that back.
What I mean, again, but that's the core of the team has been fine. Like if you have sustained sense of
Ingvartsen's missed
Dryer, I think
I
what,
the
the
think
last
last
it's
3 weeks?
I think it's fair to say, oh, hey, I'm still in wait and see mode on this team, but I'm not. I'm ready to say that this team is going to be a competitor in the conference at the least. And like we looking at the conference and it's like, yeah. Daniel, I do think it's interesting. We're talking about like, oh, it looks legitimate and sustainable that Minnesota United is the most direct team, and teams are confused by that and they're executing their plan well. And we're also saying, oh, San Diego is the least direct team in the league,
Yeah.
and that looks sustainable. And I mean, I think there's something to be said for picking a style and sticking with it, but it is funny to see that contrast.
No, I think you're exactly right in that. Oh, imagine that having a clear plan, sticking to it, and building your team around that plan rather than just kind of like picking and choosing players and kind of doing things randomly. I'm not saying any, not naming any specific teams, but yeah, that's and
a
the
lot of
notes,
teams in MLS.
a lot of teams in MLS, and the notes I wrote
I don't
down
know.
for
I'd say
San
they're doing it
Diego.
randomly.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, who thought? And again, this is not a criticism. Who thought Lucho Acosta would be on Dallas, even 3 weeks before the season started? Not saying they shouldn't have done the move. Clearly, it's a good move. But my only notes for San Diego was I wanted to be the contrarian here because it doesn't make for good podcast content for everyone to just agree with each other. I wanted to be the contrarian and say, whoa, 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 tap the brakes here, right? Like San Diego, the one time they played outside of one time zone away, they got beat at Austin. But this is the Western Conference. They don't need to play outside of Southern California very often. So, like, they kind of already have that advantage built in. And then, as we already said, if you had told me Chucky Lozano would have like 300 minutes played after 7 weeks, I would say this is a team in trouble. And Marcus Ingvartsen, another key piece of their attack, has missed the last 2 or 3 weeks. So they're getting it done. And Armand, you called out Anibal Godoy as well. I don't know how sustainable that is towards the end of the season. Let's see what he has left in the tank in September, October. But, right now it's working. All right, so heading on to topic number 3, our good friend, great broadcaster, Sebastian Salazar, Sebi, who is doing NWSL now over on Ion, doing great work over there. He sent out a tweet that I am going to quote, and he says, he sent this out on Saturday night. Wild, you can't watch the quote first division of men's soccer in this country on the television. I've watched Premier League, La Liga, USL, Liga MX, even Canadian Premier League just today on my cable package. What will 8 more years like this do to MLS? Even with Messi, it feels like the league is starting to disappear. And I think we all, what were you laughing about, by the
The
way?
way you said the television.
Well, I was going to say TV emoji, and then I was like, no, that sounds bad.
Yeah, that's it. But you sound either way. You sound 100 years old. But yeah,
Yes. Yeah, boomer. But first off, kind of my thoughts on this one with Sebi. And, I see two sides of this. He has a point in the sense of there is always something to be said for being on TV and the prestige that that gives you. And I can completely understand where he's coming from. And he has a picture of his TV of the Phoenix San Antonio USL game and, all of these different things coming up. However, I think that he's a little bit off base in this one in the sense of league starting to disappear in what way? Starting to disappear in how people who typically watch TV over a linear fashion, I would say sure, right? Like the Fox production value is not up to par with Apple TV in almost any capacity. However, WWE, they're over on Netflix now. How much of stuff is all the Champions League games on Paramount Plus? Are people calling out Paramount Plus because of these games? Absolutely not.
sometimes,
And if you look at
sometimes they are. But yeah, I agree.
right.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
And then it's funny. I had to go to another relic, big soccer of all places, to find the attendance numbers from this last weekend. As I was googling for the attendance numbers, there's a nice thread on big soccer. Every single game in the league had 18,000 plus attendance this last week. So we probably should tap the brakes a little bit on saying, is the league starting to
But
disappear?
I do think though that like it's almost like the economy as well, not to get too political, but I think the vibe does matter, how people are feeling. Are people confident, whatever the numbers say? And I do think that Messi's buzz is wearing off. And I think that the league has to do a better job making it so that people are desperate to figure out where the games are. I think that you could compare in some ways MLS being on streaming only to what we see in England, where there's this relic of trying to get people to go to the matches, right? They
Mhm.
have these protected time slots where certain kickoff times, there's no games on TV because you got to go to your local stadium. They try to protect that community club idea. It's quite antiquated now, just like an NFL blackout. Why are we doing this? Who cares? Why can't I watch the Bengals game if Cincinnati fans don't buy tickets? Whatever, right? But those existed for a reason. And I think that the key takeaway is not do blackouts or do weird TV windows, but rather have a product like the Premier League that people are desperate to watch, that people want to see, that they want to seek out, that they want to find. And to me, that's where Sebi has hit on something good here, saying, hey, what could MLS be doing to make sure that people are trying to find the games? To me, that's more important because I think as sports fans, we've all gotten used to this streaming. This idea of Joe Schmo walking into a sports bar on the corner, seeing MLS playing on a TV, falling in love with the game and becoming a season ticket holder. I don't think that's a real fan journey. I don't think that really happens very often, but I do think that, you get into something, whether it's through Ted Lasso, it brought so many people, the Wrexham documentary won over so many people. Drive to Survive got all of us interested in Formula One with storytelling, with bigger ideas. I think that does get people interested. And then you start to ask, where can I watch F1? Where can I see Wrexham? How can I figure out who's good and who's not in this rugby league that I've started to watch? To me, that's what MLS needs to be focused on. And that's more important than the delivery method Is it on linear TV? Is it on streaming? I think people are used to going to streaming services now. How do you get out of that and get them to watch what you are putting out and care where you are? To me, that's more important.
The thing with, and I feel like people kind of have this rosy remembrance of ESPN when MLS was on ESPN and Fox. It wasn't that great. You would have the games kind of thrown on at like slowly on. You'd never get coverage of them like outside of on Sports and everything. Now you get basically get nothing unless it's Messi coverage when it comes to MLS. It was treated almost like a second class league, not by the people covering it, but by the company itself. It wasn't treated as a first class league. Apple comes in and says, "We'll treat it as a first class league. We'll give you these time slots to put these games on at 7:30." Now that the the deal has gone like 2 3 years down the line, we have different time slots: the 1:30, the 3:30,
Gotten better.
the 7:30. It's gotten way better after the experiment of having everything happen at once. You have a whip around show. Would ESPN produce a whip around show? I mean, they did for Decision Day, and that was it. To me, it's this kind of, I don't I having it treated as a major class league is what Apple is doing. I don't think you would have gotten that same situation with ESPN or Fox. I mean, look how Fox is treating the Champions Cup, the CCC. They're not really doing anything great with it. They're just kind of throwing it on FS2, throwing it on FS1. It hasn't been anything that's been great. They have Messi. They can show Messi. They have it. How many times do you see an advert on FS1 or anything? Oh, we have CCC with Messi. They don't
dude,
have it.
but also, how many times are you just sitting there watching FS1 by accident or watching
No
Sports
one,
Center? I
exactly.
mean, look, like I just don't think that we consume like that anymore, and that's why, to me, yes, I think the league do a great job telling these stories and marketing and et cetera. And I'm not saying that like, oh, by being on a streaming service, it's better or what. I just think that like the key is to think modern. And MLS, like other leagues are also behind paywalls, and those fans are still finding those leagues, and MLS fans are finding MLS too. It's just about creating more of the fan to get people in.
I think that the issue on my side is every person can cherry pick what they think their KPI for success is. And that's probably going to vary wildly person to person. And MLS's KPI for success, right or wrong, may not be a simple number of people tuned in. We don't know exactly what that KPI is. And so it's very difficult. And when you look at attendances, which I think is a very fair KPI still, I know I said that this to start, but when you have 17, 18,000 in every single stadium, when there's 10 plus games a weekend, that is getting towards Major League Baseball numbers and getting towards, I mean, in some cases ahead of NBA. Obviously, their stadiums can't go higher than that, but getting ahead of NBA, NHL. And we're missing that there's 30,000 in Charlotte for a random Saturday game against Nashville. That's, 40,000 in Atlanta for a random game against Dallas on a Saturday night. I think those things need to be taken into account. And if our only KPI is, can I click a button on my TV and on my YouTube TV, I can see MLS next to this game, next to this game. Yeah, that's not really where the league is at right now. But how do we know that that's where they want to be at, right? I don't know. Sorry, I went out of order on that one. Okay, so coming up next, we on topic number 4, we are going to go to CONCACAF Champions Cup. And we talked about big winners from the last week in MLS. The winners of last week in CONCACAF Champions Cup were people who had something else to do those
People about
nights.
life. Yeah.
And who had a life.
Yeah,
and,
buddy.
and couldn't actually tune into them, guys, because I was locked in. John, I know you were locked in. Armand, I think you were locked in one night. These games weren't very good, guys. I mean, 2-0 draws, a 1-1 draw, and then I will say the LAFC Miami game was a banger, but Miami just doesn't. When you have Messi, you just don't play bad games. But starting off, we're going to start off as we look at Champions Cup, Armand, with that Inter Miami LAFC game. The only game Miami has lost this year. Can they turn it around against an LAFC team that lost in Houston at the end of at the weekend? But I mean, they have the experience in these games.
Right. And the way LAFC played, I mean, they really slowed down Messi and whatnot. Yes, there
Big
was
times.
there was transit opportunities, but they didn't create anything from there. I mean, uh, from games that weren't 0 degrees outside and I think it was one more match. That was Inter Miami's lowest expected goals, like by a significant margin.
Come on, stat guy. That's your stat. I think that was except for those
And other
two.
one match.
And
We know it was one of their lowest expected goals of
it
the
was
season,
one
for
of their
sure.
it was one of their lowest ones. It wasn't freaking freezing outside.
Yeah.
But uh, they,
Make that a graph. XG versus temperature. That's what I
When
want to see.
non-freaking freezing.
no,
Your point's taken, Armand. Go ahead.
yeah. But with Miami, I was surprised that they had their players go for as long as they did against Toronto on Sunday. I thought
Yeah.
they would have
That
yanked
kind
them
of was too,
earlier.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they would have yanked them earlier. They have a game on Wednesday. Is Messi just prepping for, playing more often? I don't know, but I thought they'd prioritize that, especially because I think that game they also need fresh legs too. They're kind of off in some moments against Toronto, but for Miami, I mean, they just need to be. This is gonna sound like a very obvious add this to words of wisdom, but just better in attack because every other phase of play was good. Every other phase of play was good, but in attack, they just didn't seem all connected. It seemed like they were just trying to find Messi in pockets, and Messi can go and do whatever and score. That's not. You have to be collective as a whole, and LAFC wasn't crazy impressive either in their game as well. I would say it was kind of a battle of mid to a degree. I thought Ordaz was pretty strong. Boanga was
If he should have been on the
okay.
field.
Yeah, if Ordaz was lucky to stay on the pitch. I mean, for me, it's Miami just needs to have that final product, and they just didn't have it in that game. They showed it against Toronto, but everything else, Daniel, to me was fine.
I don't think they did either.
I mean, they had like 2.8 XG. I'm pretty sure they were fine in creating.
But that means they didn't have the finished product.
I mean, they were creating the chances to have it. They just didn't. They just were cucked by Sean Johnson.
I think that like it's an interesting point about Inter Miami, how long those guys went, and really LAFC and Club America big time were some of the only teams that really rotated. Cruz Azul couldn't really afford to. They're playing a big game against Pumas. A lot of the MLS teams didn't do as much as I thought they might as far as changes go. There's time between these games, but not as much as I thought. We've seen teams rotate even more heavily. So I'm interested, just because I think LAFC, despite the fact they're traveling, it's a fairly long way to go. They had the disappointing game in Houston, although again, without some of the players that they'll definitely be playing during the middle of the week. I think that's going to be interesting to see kind of freshness and who's got that spark. I really am expecting more this week from all the games, to be honest. I think that the passion of hey, the first leg was feisty and it's a draw and we all know what we have to do to get through is going to go a little bit. And I think the Cruz Azul America series for sure. It seemed like both teams were fine, kind of sleepwalking through that first game. But both of them with results this weekend that will motivate them, I think. Cruz Azul getting a win in a back and forth game against Pumas, and America losing with a heavily rotated team against Pachuca that's been a bit of a bogey team. Not that anyone could see it. That game was not broadcast on television. I want to talk about a little throwback to a weird era. I wrote more about that on the newsletter if you want to get into that. But overall, I think this is going to be a better week. I think the fact that even the first legs were boring, that we have these ties between Vancouver and Pumas, between Cruz Azul and Club America, I think it's going to be really fascinating in the second leg.
Armand, didn't you call it though? LAFC beating Miami? Didn't you predict LAFC
I had
to beat
Vancouver
Miami?
winning out. I did not have it. I think I had Miami winning.
That wasn't your upset. Well, I'm calling it right now. LAFC is going to leave Miami with advancing because I just don't like right now Miami. Look, this is what they've been doing for a long time, but it's still have Messi bail us out because Suarez isn't doing anything right now. And that has been probably for me the biggest difference between 2024 LAFC and 2025 is that Luis Suarez is not really getting those chances. He's not really accumulating the numbers that he needs to. He's not even getting shots up. And I think that Inter Miami's in big trouble. Now, could they play terrible? Messi scores in the 80th minute? Yes. But we have seen Miami with all of their South American players start to get frustrated in games like this. And I think you could see a red card, and I think you could see Miami starting to creep up too much, and Buanga gets behind them, and he makes it 2-0 on aggregate.
This feeds into my Mascherano skepticism. Not
Yeah,
that I think
yeah.
he's not going to eventually be a good manager, but just that this is the big job, and these are the times where he actually needs to start managing. I think that the start of the season was so impressive. I still think they're the best MLS team right now. When you look at how they're playing, when you look at what they can do, they certainly have the names. But I do think that this is kind of his it's not his first test because yes, they had the start of the season. He passed that. But I think, when we talk about managing minutes, how long should these guys go? What do they feel comfortable with? How are you going to set up against LAFC? If things don't go right, how do you keep your cool? How do you make sure to avoid the scenario that they're describing? That is all stuff that falls on the manager and his staff. We just haven't seen them in those high pressure moments yet. So I think that's one to circle. And, look, the passion always spills over, it seems, in Mexico City. So, I think we're going to see some better series. That's what I'm praying for, at least.
Absolutely. All right. Getting to our fifth topic of the week, the MLS transfer window closes. Is it this week, Armand? I believe.
Yeah, it's like the 12th or 14th in that range. Yeah.
Probably not going to see anything too crazy here in the next few days. But teams are starting to look towards the summer, and there's been a lot of rumors quite recently in the news, literally in the last few hours, in the last few minutes. It was broken that what Inter Miami actually holds Kevin De Bruyne's. Who broke that? I want to give
Tenorio,
the
Paul
Paul Tenorio.
Tenorio.
Paul Tenorio broke that news that Inter Miami holds. Could you imagine a Messi, Kevin De Bruyne, Busquets center midfield? That would just be wild. But a lot of names being rumored, and we wanted to give who kind of our dream summer signings are. And I can kick us off for this one because we just talked about LAFC and how they, what they're lacking right now and what they're doing. And guys, could you imagine if you put Antoine Griezmann at the front of this front line right now? Because it feels like to me the only thing they're missing is that player up top. David Martinez has been showing his flashes. I think it's just a matter of time
You're
before he
watching
gets
David Martinez on the television.
Martinez. Did I
David. It's fine.
David
I'm just messing with
Martinez.
you, man. I'm just being a jerk.
David Martinez. There I can
Yeah,
go.
British. Go British on it.
Yes. Martinez and Buanga. But if you put Antoine Griezmann in the middle there, I don't think we're far away from it. It feels like these types of moves wait to be announced until the teams get eliminated from like Champions League or La Liga, which obviously Atletico Madrid is still very much in the mix for in La Liga. So I think we'll be waiting on that one. But John, where are you looking for a dream summer signing?
I didn't really actually look at the notes on this one, but it seems like Mueller might come. It seems like KDB might come. I mean, De Bruyne, I think would be super fun. It seems like all the teams he gets rumored for, it's not gonna happen. San
Don't want him.
Diego, not gonna happen. Inter Miami with the discovery rights, tough to see him there. It's possible. Armand is being a little bit of a skeptic. If you were live and saw our pre-show chat, I get it. But we said that same thing about like when Zlatan came into the league. I remember like, oh well, LA Galaxy's a DP sponsor full. How could they ever? It was fine.
Yeah.
They figured it out. So I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. But I would like to see him in the league. I think he's a player who still has a lot to offer and just produces those highlight moments that are fun to watch. So I'd like to see him. I don't know. Like I can't. I'm not sure. There's like a team that I really want to like wish cast him on. But I just want to see him in MLS, man.
You left off a name that I thought you were going to mention. Giacomakis. I see there's rumors that he could come back to MLS. Do you think there's a possibility of that?
Maybe Cruz Azul is going to have a big decision to make, or they're going to have a lot of decisions to make this summer, and it's definitely possible that he come back. Man, I don't know. Is this guy going to end up being the most lucrative transfer back and forth between both leagues? Like, hey, Atlanta brought him in, but they made a lot of money going to Cruz Azul, but they can make money selling him to MLS. But then maybe he goes back to Mexico. I don't know. It's like a a
Joao
Greek
Felix.
Camilo.
Joao Felix isn't he one of those? And then like the Sam Bradford in NFL where he signed all these contracts but never actually really played that many games. Joao Felix, Armand, who like right now when you're watching, who are you looking at and thinking, man, if this team had someone in a certain spot?
So you said LAFC with Griezmann. I don't know if Griezmann's gonna come over. It seems like it's getting more and more likely it won't happen from what you read, from what Tom Bogert's reported, and from what you read online. I'm intrigued by the idea of Thomas Muller with LAFC. I mean, he's
Okay.
a really smart player. He's super. He's almost, you could almost use him as a false nine or a really fluid nine that can move around quite a bit. We've seen success with some 35-year-olds in MLS. Obviously, Olivier Giroud didn't really work out for LAFC, and I don't think he will work out for
That's
the
an
team today.
understatement.
Yeah, I mean that's me being nice. I think Thomas Muller makes sense, and from all the reports you read, it seems like Bayern Munich want him to go to LAFC.
They're
LAFC
partners.
and they're partners in crime. LAFC
Let's
can
not say
has
that.
a
Crime. Okay.
maybe not crime, but
I believe the red gold group is totally above board, but
Yes.
I haven't looked at the books. I don't know.
but they have an open DP spot with Under. If when Under's loan expires, that spot will be opened up. He slots right into that open position. I think it just makes all the sense in the world, and I think Muller's the type of player that can age actually pretty well and has aged pretty well. I mean, we're seeing Choupo-Moting come into MLS with Red Bulls, and he's been great.
Pretty good, yeah.
He's been pretty awesome. So I would like to see Muller. KDB would be awesome as well. I just don't know where he would go. Bogert said that he wanted he said NYCFC would be an option. How hilarious would it be to see KDB on a baseball field for a couple seasons before they move into that
Yeah,
stadium in
smashing
27?
dingers.
It's that would be pretty funny.
But would he not fit perfectly because he wouldn't have to do a lot of running? I mean, it's a small field. It's a field where you get a ton of touches. You have a big impact on the game.
Man, I get like Pirlo PTSD when I think
Yeah.
about that, or like Lampard, right?
Iriola
Like
too.
I don't think I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but yeah, like I don't. That's not fun to me. Oh, he stays in the city group and goes to NYCFC. I'm not saying it wouldn't.
What would be
I
fun for
just
you, John, outside
what
of
would be
Miami?
fun for me is if he did like a Guillermo Bariscoleto and went to like a random team in the hinterlands of the US. Like if it was just like, you know what, I do want to move to Nashville.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be
sure,
cool.
dude.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. Like who was it that was doing? I mean, you see that out of Griezmann too, though, where he goes to like he pops up at like random basketball arenas sometimes
Anything
too.
NBA he'll be at, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up with topic number 6 this week, the fun topic. And we mentioned it's already summer. I'm procrastinating on my summer plans. John, have y'all are y'all procrastinating on your summer plans with
We
your
we
family yet?
we booked a trip last night because
Okay.
it's a wedding and only one room was left at the place, and they were like, "You guys need to book this." So I think we fit the bill for procrastinating.
Well, I'm procrastinating some on my summer trips, but that just means there's still time to plan for the summer of soccer in the United States. And it is, we've kind of crapped on the Club World Cup a little bit. Maybe that's a little harsh. We've questioned just the logistics of it. There's the Gold Cup coming this summer, all sorts of things. So, Armand, I'm going to kick it off to you first here. We want to talk about if you were planning your summer soccer trip, where are you looking in the United States? It could be a couple days, a weekend, 3 or 4 days, depending on what type of PTO you get at your job. What are you looking at Armand?
I thought you were gonna steal it. You said you were gonna steal it. I thought you were gonna steal
I
it.
think I'm going to improve on it. I think I'm
Okay,
going to.
okay, if okay, improve on it
All
because
right.
I haven't thought that deep about it. But you could go to LA for a week from June 15th to June 22nd and watch PSG play Atletico Madrid. Um,
Atletico. If you guys are going to call me out on the last segment for Martinez, Atletico, that's another one.
All right.
Thank you.
damn,
Continue.
you you're you're kind of harsh on me right now, man. That kind of
Continue.
hurt. You could then watch Monterrey play Inter Milan on the 17th. On the 19th, you can watch PSG play Botafogo, which I mean, if you want to, you can maybe skip that, maybe do something else. It might be a little expensive, but still be a good game. And then on the 21st, you can watch Monterrey play River Plate. That sounds like a lot of fun, man. That sounds like all great games, a lot of fun at the Rose Bowl too. Like that sounds to me like you could watch 4 games and stay in one location. Obviously, I think you could bounce around and do something a little bit differently. And also, the games aren't that expensive for that range. I think when I was looking, they were around like 120, 140, which, depending on how your stock portfolio looks after the last couple of days, may not be great. But that to me seems like a fun time, especially the weather too. I mean, it should be nice. The games are at wonky times though, so like that's the thing you only have to be aware of. Some
Yeah,
games
you're
are
on
at 2,
vacation.
but you're on vacation, so who cares?
I feel you. I feel you. John, where
I'll,
where are you looking? Are you staying at
yeah.
Club World Cup or are you going to
Well, yeah, I'm going to post up in Orlando because listen to this set of games. You got Benfica against Auckland City.
ooh,
You have
Oof.
TBD playing Flamengo. Now, TBD, their squad a little up in the air. Could be anyone. Could be Club
KDB on
America. Could
TDB?
be Leon. Could be Alajuelense. But to be fair, there are a lot of Brazilians in Orlando, and I think they'll show out for Flamengo. Actually, legitimately, probably a fun atmosphere. We got Ulsan, formerly known as Hyundai, but now called HD, against the Mamelodi Sundowns. And then there's some games at the bigger stadium in Orlando too. But I mean, I'm like, how did Orlando just end up as the dumping ground for like some of these games? Benfica, Auckland City, Ulsan, Mamelodi. There's no way the Mexican press isn't going to call this team the Mamalona Sundowns. I promise you. I promise you they're going to call them that. I promise you it's going to happen. And you heard it here first on the minute 48 of the Hex. Where I'm actually trying to go this summer is Seattle to see Club World Cup and Vancouver to go to Gold Cup games at BC
Mm.
Place. I've never been to Vancouver. I hear amazing things. So hopefully I'm able to make it a little bit of a double dip. I also need to get credentialed for the Club World Cup, and that deadline passed. So looks like that might be harder than I anticipated, judging from the social
Especially
media
if you have a
chatter today.
part-time, especially if you have a part-time job that's not in
And I
soccer.
don't know how they will classify me, but that's my actual one. In Texas we get a lot of heat. It's not like 30 degrees or anything, but it's a little cooler in the Pacific Northwest. I love to go there in the summer. So if I can make that's always a classic like U.S. soccer road trip. If you can do like a Portland Seattle double, so we'll see what I can get into in the Pacific Northwest this year, but hopefully can make it up to Canada, to BC for the first time.
I'm going to expand on Armand's a little bit because I want to go one step deeper here. I'm going to stay in LA and I'm going to stay on what he was talking about. Now, I'm thinking I have limited PTO at my job. So I got to make every day count, right? I can't just be taking willy-nilly, oh, let's just go to the Rose Bowl, but we can have a day off and then, we can go to 4 games in 8 days. I don't have 8 days to take off. So let's look at this. Saturday, June 14th, we go LAFC versus Toronto FC in an MLS matchup. Why not? Now, could that game be moved if LAFC beats Club America or something like that? TBD, right? But we're going LAFC, Toronto FC on Saturday, June 14th. June 15th, PSG, Atletico Madrid at the Rose Bowl. June 16th, we're going to Dodger Stadium, and we got the LA Dodgers versus the San Diego Padres. I mean, come on.
Ba, 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 ba. That'd be a hot
Unmissable,
ticket.
and it's
That'd
Blake
be a hot
Snell
ticket.
bobblehead night at the San Diego Padres game. So, or at
Cool.
Dodger Stadium down in Chavez Ravine. So you get to see the defending champs against San Diego. That could be a little dangerous, but so be a little careful at that game. Then we're going back to the Rose Bowl the next night for Monterrey, Inter Milan. You're back at work. You took 3 days, or sorry, 2 days of PTO, and you got 4 great days in of sports. That is the ultimate summer road trip. So make it happen,
Wow, I
guys.
don't know. I didn't hear Benfica and Auckland City in there, so
No,
Yeah, or
Mama
Mama
Loans.
Mama Lones.
Mama alone in Sundowns. I'm telling you, it's
What
gonna
country?
go.
What
It's
country are they from?
South Africa.
Okay.
Well, I was trying to figure that out too, because I mean, I was looking at the Juventus games because Juventus plays in
They have the big
Orlando. They play
Orlando
Manchester
game. Yeah.
City the day before my birthday, which my birthday is the rest day in Club World Cup. So
Congrats.
yeah, so they're taking the
You
day
think
off
they
for
would
me.
change it on the graphic to say Daniel's birthday observed?
Yes, please. But the teams they're playing are just crazy. Like they're playing at Lincoln Financial Field against like Al Wydad. Who's going to that
But
game?
dude, the thing that's going to be really interesting is like we see in the Gold Cup sometimes like the surprise diaspora community where you're
That's
like,
true.
oh, I mean, like obviously we're used to like we know, oh, Honduras, El Salvador, but like I remember Guatemala got like scrambled to be a Gold Cup team because Curacao had to they pulled them out because of COVID testing. That would have been 2021, I guess. And it was at the Cotton Bowl here in Dallas against Mexico. And there are more Guatemala fans than Mexico fans. And that's something you just don't see in the United States, Mexico not being the team with more supporters. And I was like, man, I knew there's a Guatemalan community in the US, but like I didn't realize it was like this. So what I'm saying is like, how big is the Egyptian community in Philly? I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. And maybe it's going to be like you get this kind of like surprise diaspora. It doesn't seem like the tickets are flying from what we've seen FIFA kind of
Well,
do and how
Dad
they're
is
kind of trying
Moroccan,
to.
so it'd be the Moroccan
Yeah,
community.
sorry, but I mean, but there is Al Ali's in it, no?
Yep, Al Ali's they play Al
I mean,
Ali
that's a massive
in
club.
DC. In DC.
Yep.
That's a well, I mean, okay. I think there's a lot of
I agree. I was gonna say.
like people might show up to some of these games that we're not expecting, but like I do think, okay, like Benfica, Auckland City, look, even if there's a Portuguese community, I don't think they're all Benfica fans, and I don't think there's going to be many Kiwis. So like, what? Who's going to go? Who's going to go?
Mamalones.
Me on my on my
Well,
summer road trip.
we've given you LA, go to the Pacific Northwest. So one thing you can do in the Northeast is taking a lot of games because you can get from one city to the next. So you could probably get like 7 games in 7 days if you really wanted to.
The
But
hotels are going to be like $2,000,
yeah,
man.
forget that. Forget that. Just post up by the Rose Bowl. What's wrong with that? Pasadena, beautiful. Anyways, that will wrap us up for the Hex, guys. Thanks for joining, and we will catch you next week. And for those of you watching on the live stream, for
Stay Mama Lona.
for what would be singular for you watching on the live stream, sir.
Or man.
Stay Mama
We love you if it's not one of us.
We love you.
Well, if it
Okay.
is, I also love you too.
Talk to you later, guys.